What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Christian Hannah Har here. Welcome to another Christian's Cult Classics. Today we're going to do a request from one of my subs, and today we're talking about John Carpenter's The Fog. Now, when it comes to The Fog, I kind of want to just talk about the movie. I don't necessarily want to dive into what goes on in the movie because it's very much a classic style ghost story. Elements of the town with their hidden secret, and they stole gold from the ship and then murdered all the guys on the ship, and then they're coming back to haunt the town. And it's a great little campfire story. As a matter of fact, that's what's going on, is this old man in the campfire telling all these kids the history of what happened. And it's very, very classic horror, John Carpenter, charming horror. But what's kind of unique about The Fog is it doesn't really feel like a slasher film that much. This is going on during the heyday, the biggest era of slasher movies. 1979, 1980, when this movie was getting made, it was slasher crazed. Everything was all slasher movies. Here we go, we're doing this. While there is a little bit of violence in The Fog, it's interesting that, to me, it doesn't really feel like a slasher movie. It does feel kind of like a creepy little atmospheric horror movie, and that's kind of what I really, really love about The Fog and how it is a standout in that era. I do believe this was the follow-up to Halloween. I think he did The Fog with Avco Embassy, and then he went and did Halloween 2. And it seemed like John kind of had a lot of the same team working with him on The Fog, which is something you'll see with a lot of John Carpenter movies. It's interesting that Donald Pleasence wasn't in this. I wonder if he tried to find a role for Donald to do in this movie, but just couldn't come up with anything. One interesting thing about The Fog that I really like is that the Jamie Lee and her mom are both in this movie, and that was nice. That was really nice. They don't interact a whole lot in this movie, but I think that's kind of by design. I think they didn't really want to have scenes together. What I really like about The Fog in the movie is the setting. It's really just different. You've got the lighthouse where Stevie Wayne does her radio show. It almost makes me feel like I'm watching Jaws, not in the sense of sharks, whatever, but in the sense of when I'm watching it, it's calming. Like, even though Jaws is this big adventure movie, whenever you're by the ocean scenes and everything, I feel very calm when I'm by the ocean. And I feel that too in The Fog, and I like it when the kid goes out by the water and he finds that sign, and he's out by the water. I just love that. I can get very relaxed when I'm watching The Fog. Now, I did think John Carpenter was married to Adrienne Barbeau when he did this movie, and it must have been really awkward because I know apparently he was with Deborah Hill right before this, and then got with Adrienne Barbeau, and they got married, which seems like it was pretty quick. I don't know. Nobody really disparages or says anything negative about Adrienne Barbeau, and rightfully so. We don't know whether she stole John away from Deborah or what, but one thing we all agree on is we all love seeing Adrienne Barbeau in horror movies. She's just a very, very, very good actor. Adrienne wasn't on the cover of the movie. As you can see, they got Jamie Lee Curtis on the cover of this, and it's funny because they thought she was going to be this giant star after Halloween, and to Jamie Lee Curtis' surprise herself, she wasn't. And for some reason, they decided to put Jamie Lee Curtis on the cover of this, and it just kind of seems odd. Like, I would have much rather have had Adrienne Barbeau on the original artwork. When Scream Factory re-released the movie, they did prominently put Adrienne Barbeau on the front. I've got my poster up over there, and it's great. Whenever you see the ghosts come into the movie, it's really creepy because you just barely get their outlines, and that's just... that's the great stuff from Dean Cundey at the time and John Carpenter. That was a perfect marriage between those two guys. They work together great in their movies. Dean is so responsible for a lot of the looks in these John Carpenter movies, and he's not an unsung hero. A lot of people praise him highly, but I just do want to mention that Dean Cundey, this is like his film to me. Dean Cundey makes this film just look so good. So when it comes to The Fog, it's pretty much an instant classic when it comes to horror movie fans. The Fog is a movie that, nobody really... I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything bad about The Fog. It's not the biggest budgeted movie you're ever going to see. It's not the most bombastic, crazy horror movie you're ever going to see. In an era of slasher movies taking over, while this does have slight elements, it feels like such a black sheep and a standout because it is a ghost story horror movie. Quite honestly, it's perfect. The Fog is a movie it's a very relaxing movie for me. And it's good because I love movies like that. We need movies like that. Sometimes a nice, slow ghost story is really fun. But what's good about this movie is there is no loss of interest throughout the movie. You love everything you see. And that's the charm of John Carpenter. Definitely you can watch over and over again. It's a staple. I think I watch it at least once or twice every year. And it's just, quite honestly, just a fabulous horror movie. If you haven't seen The Fog, this is a John Carpenter staple. This was at the heyday of John Carpenter's creativity before he got into with Universal and doing movies. But this was like the heart and soul of John Carpenter right here. And I know there was actually reshoots with this movie, which is also interesting, that they didn't think it was violent enough or it just didn't seem scary enough. So that's interesting too, that John Carpenter and his crew were like, we gotta fix this. And I'm fine with everything they added. It would be interesting to see the original cut of the movie, but I don't think we ever will. The soundtrack is fantastic too. I can't not bring up the soundtrack. Anyway, guys, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, ding the bell so you never miss an upload. Check out my Teespring in the description, and we'll see you guys next time. And watch out, because there's something in the fog.